head out on the formation lap, I think it is time for us to give you our first grid of today, and it is for race 1 of 2 for the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship, and they line up like this. One notable absence you'll see, no Harry Storer. He's not here this weekend, so instead it's John Pethick who takes pole position for the first time this season. He starts alongside Neil Chisnell on the front row of the grid. Barney Francis then comes next ahead of MX-5 Clubman debutant Matthew Bankhurst, so welcome to him on the grid, 4th fastest. Jay Shepherd with 5th on the 3rd row alongside Dan Blake, who's in 6th position, and then Matthew Fletcher and Graham Rumsey come next on the 4th row to round out the top 8. The top 10 is then rounded out by invitation class driver, as it should be, Charles Medwin. Alongside him is invitation driver Richard Harwood. Then it's Alan Hawkins and Nick Ledoyen on the 6th row of the grid, ahead of Brad Jones and Richard Bartlett. And then it's Peter Higton, not as high as he would like to be, in 15th on the grid, alongside William Bream on the 8th row. And then the final few rows on the grid are going to be the last few cars, which is Andrew Dean and Kevin Bird on the 9th row of the grid, Owen Woodwards and Jamie Turner, first time appearance in the championship, starting 20th, and David Sculler and Peter Williams, another new face, who starts back in 22nd. So a 22-car entry for our first race of today. So as I mentioned, there is one notable absence from today's entry list, and it is championship leader Harry Storer. We also don't have Rob Greensmith on the list either. So the top 2 in the championship, who lead not just on total scores but also on adjusted scores, with the 2 worst results of the season being dropped for every driver. Harry Storer was going to come into the weekend 30 points ahead of Rob Greensmith, but I suspect that the kart drivers that are immediately behind them, the likes of Dan Blake, Peter Higton, Kevin Bird and Richard Bartlett, are going to make significant gains on those who aren't here. Now, of course, for those 2 drivers, Harry and Rob, they will be able to drop these 2 races as their worst scores. They are the worst because they haven't turned up, so therefore they're not scoring anything. So they can use them as drop scores, but of course it means then that every single result after that really has to count. Because after Snetterton, we'll have the rounds at Cadwell Park at Donington, and then at the Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch at the end of October. And pretty much since then, they have to be scoring points pretty much in every single one of those races. Otherwise, it could really dent their chances for the championship. We might also see a shake-up in the Masters points as well. Peter Higton probably looks as though he's likely to take over the lead of that points table. He came into the weekend on overall scores some 11 points behind Rob Greensmith, 578 for Rob compared to 567 for Peter. Tim Storer, Harry's father, is also not here this weekend as well. So it means that the likes of Richard Bartlett and also even Alan Hawkins and Jay Shepherd, who are further back in points, but they want to try and grab as many as they can to try and climb up the order a few more positions. So John Pethick then is the blue car with the offset white racing stripes down the driver's right. It's the silver car with the purple and green graphics is Neil Chisnell, son of Clive, who was a prominent Mark 1 racer for quite a while, long-time racer in the MX-5 Championship, and has now moved into the Super Cup. And then also watch out for the Misty Racing car, which is starting in 3rd on the grid, that being Barney Francis, alongside Matthew Bankhurst, who's one of 2 Mike Comber Racing entered cars. Lights are about to come up then for the first race of the day for the Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship. Pethick and Chisnell on the front row of the grid. Watch for some of the championship contenders further back as we get underway here at Snetterton. It's a cracking start from the 3rd row from both Jane Francis and the 777 Wasp livery car and the Paddock Motorsport run car, the black, blue and white machine of Dan Blake, who from the 3rd rows, they head down towards Ritchie's for the first time. They're 2 and 3 abreast. They turn in and there's contact already. 1 car's gone around. That's car number 5. Nick Ledoyen's gone spinning off onto the grass at Ritchie's. Wasn't a big piece of contact, but these are quite light MX-5s, and hopefully you can get that car going again if it's not damaged. There was contact left front to right rear. Quick little wave of dismissal to the marshals and away he goes, but I'm not quite sure that was the way he wanted to start his weekend as he gets back onto the circuit to try and pick up what he can from this first race. Well, already this battle is going on. John Pethick under attack from Jay Shepherd as they turn into Palmers for the first time. As they come onto the back straight, Neil Chisnell, who does lead the race, runs wide as he comes on the run towards Agostini. More cars running wide in the background, one of them being Peter Higton, who's quite high up in the championship, but he started down the order with lots of work to do. Battle on for second. Back up the inside goes John Pethick on passing Barney Francis, and charging up, as we mentioned, from the 3rd row of the grid is Jay Shepherd. He's quite experienced in motorsport himself. Not only is he a former Brit car champion, he's raced in Europe, he's raced in Radicals as well, and of course in the legendary TVR Tuscan Challenge, and more recently he's been competing in the Fun Cup Championship and also debuted the brand new MP01 Evo sports prototype in the new Zeo Prototype Cup, which he shared with Ed Worthington, his business partner, because the Wasp company is pretty much an acronym of Worthington and Shepherd. Performance parts, and off the road goes Barney Francis, drops a wheel onto the curb. Sting Williams clouts the barrier on the inside, and there was one of the AB Motorsport cars that went shooting through and was lucky not to collect him. So, Barney Francis then, who is stationary on the road. Hopefully that won't be too much of a trouble and he can get it going again. Otherwise, we might get a first appearance of the RunYourFleet.com Jaguar XF Sport Brake safety car. But it is Neil Chisnell who leads the way then. It's Jay Shepherd up into second place as they turn their way through. Talk about eventful for a first lap in the Clubman Championship. They certainly were trying to get their elbows out pretty quickly. Now, Barney Francis has tried to get that car going, but I wonder if the damage that he sustained from the, what looked like a fairly low-speed clip of the barriers might well have caused a bit more than first thought. Well, there's Matthew Fletcher in car 21. He's worked pretty well. In fact, he started, where did he start on the grid? Matthew Fletcher started back in on the grid. Where was he? 7th on the road. He's coming up to 4th at this point. So they head out of the final corner at Murray's and onto the pit straight. Now, whether or not Barney Francis' car is going to have to prompt a safety car or not, we'll wait and see, unless he can park that car on the inside of the road. Lots of battles going on here. Graham Rumsey battling with Peter Higton. Also, Kevin Berber's in the mix as well. I think one of the two Mike Comber racing cars. Yes, it was. That was the 144 car of Matthew Bankhurst. Welcome to the Clubman Championship, Matthew, as he gets himself stuck in with some of the regulars. Now, there are a few drivers in this pack who are also competing in the main MX-5 Championship. Not that this championship is any lesser at all, but it's the more established usually two-day, three-race format for that championship. But they have run one-day meetings at places like Alton Park before. But this is pretty much, for the most part, a Mazda MX-5 day, and it's been pretty energetic and full of action from the very first few laps. So end of the first lap as they came across the line. Neil Chisnell leads the way then here at Snetterton on this opening lap, as now it's side by side for third. Diving up the inside to take a podium place is Matt Fletcher, and the car which he's usually shared with Chris Malloy before in the main championship is now up into third position. Now Jay Shepherd is chasing after Neil Chisnell already, and I wonder if he might be able to put himself into a position to take his first Clubman victory, because he has been in situations in the last few rounds where he has been looking pretty strong, and then he's had mechanical issues hit him at the last minute. So hopefully this will be a chance for Jay Shepherd to get himself into what could be a potential race-winning position if he can start to close the gap to Neil Chisnell already. There's John Pethick, car number 150, started on pole position, but it's now back to 4th. And Barney Francis' car is still there on the inside of the exit of Williams, so that's an interesting position. It's almost half on, half off the track. So yes, it's off the racing line, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's not a safety car at some point to try and recover it. But at the moment, the race continues on. I think they're covering with waved yellows. There's now sideways down the exit. Now, I did hear the circuit commentator getting excited. Now, has there been... Was that Neil Chisnell flashing through the bottom of the shot who went wide? I'll have to look at our next camera, because I have a suspicion maybe Jay Shepherd's gone into the lead. But as we see here, we see that's Kevin Bird battling with the 144 of Matthew Bankhurst. They're battling over 9th and 10th position. You can see the cross. Now, then, there is Jay Shepherd. And yes, it is the lead change. So I did see there was no Chisnell running wide on the exit of Nelson. So Jay Shepherd is into the lead here in this first MX-5 Clubman race. He now assumes the front in the 777 car. Also a driver working well to catch up to the lead group is Dan Blake. He was the one, like Shepherd, who got a demon start from the third row of the grid as they charge down the pit straight. So Neil Chisnell then drops to 4th, and he's now being chased down by both the 722 car, which is the fantastically jigsaw liveried car of Alan Hawkins, and the rapid Dan Blake, who came into the weekend on points, on drop scores at least, at 3rd in the standings. He's currently so far set a best finish of, what's his best finish so far been? It's been 4th position, and that was last time out at Anglesey. Dan manages to make the move stick as he slots past into what is currently his personal best finish at the moment. And now they make their way up towards the left-hander at Palmer. So Shepherd then leads the way, contrary to the timing tower on the left-hand side. Shepherd leads then, but it's Fletcher who's just set the fastest lap of the race. So, who is currently sat in, that will be 2nd position. Yes, because Pethick's up to 3rd now. Chisnell's dropped up to 4th. There's a car off in the background. That's car number 6. That's Richard Harwood who's gone off at Palmer's. Now, that looked fairly high speed. I'm not sure if he was in the train of cars that's coming down towards Agostini, but an off for Richard Harwood in the background. That's one of the two Mike Comber Racing prepared cars. There's more action in front going on between them. That's Richard Bartlett trying to pick his way through, getting around the 76, I think. That was Charles Medwin who's in there. And William Bream, I think, was getting his elbow stuck in. That was the 264 car battling with Andrew Dean. So all sorts going on in this Clubman Championship race. It's only the first race of the day. So in through Williams they go. That's still Dan Blake being chased down by Alan Hawkins. That's for 5th and 6th position. There goes Graham Rumsey. Behind him is Matthew Bankhurst. And there's Peter Higton, who hasn't really had the quickest of starts this weekend. He came into the weekend 4th on drop scores. As there we see Jay Shepherd getting all out of shape through the braking zone for Brundle and Nelson, and now he's under threat from Matthew Fletcher, so we might be able to get our fourth different leader in less than 2 laps. So they turn in then through the bomb hole and up through Coram, this long, almost never-ending right-hander, back towards the very tricky braking zone. You have to really set the car up here to try and brake in a straight line, and Jay Shepherd's having difficulty just keeping the car pointing in the right direction, getting sideways. I'm not sure there was a bit of a tag there from Matthew Fletcher on the apex, but he's being pushed now by number 21. And I have to say also, John Pethick's not far away either. In fact, there he is. In fact, I think that Jay Shepherd had to back up a little bit, which forced Matt Fletcher to back off, and now it's going to be 3 abreast down the pit straight. 3 abreast for a lead, down towards Richards. It's Shepherd on the inside line. It was Fletcher in the middle, and on the outside line is John Pethick, as Jay Shepherd slots back into 3rd position. Now John Pethick looks to try and get the undercut through turn 1. Shepherd's back on Pethick's rear bumper. Neil Chisnell can get back involved here, and look at Dan Blake and Alan Hawkins there are starting to close in pretty quickly. So, Championship leader Harry Story is away from the MX-5 Clubman Championship. He leaves it for just 1 meeting, and it all starts to go crazy. They can all sense a first victory here, and they're all pushing as hard as possible. Let's just check on the timing screen to see where we are with fastest laps at the moment. It's still being held by the new leader, Matthew Fletcher. 2 minutes 24.433 is the best time so far, so he will get the bonus point for fastest lap for that one. Here comes Neil Chisnell then, up the inside for 3rd place. Now I wonder, dare I say it, is either Jay Shepherd losing a bit of momentum, or is Neil Chisnell just finding that pace again, or, whisper it, is Jay Shepherd having another problem again? Well, he's keeping up with the top 2, but he's now under threat with Neil Chisnell to his left, or he was at least, as he slots back in. But now we've got to be careful for Dan Blake in that black and blue machine with the yellow roll cage, number 27. That's the Paddock Motorsport run car, which is the team that's run by former World Endurance and Le Mans 24-hour LMP2 class winner, Martin Plowman. Of course, he also runs his own Bentley GT3 car after JRM ran it at the beginning of the season in British GT, and he shares that car with not only his long-standing co-driver for the last few seasons, but also his team partner, Kelvin Fletcher. So that car is running well in 5th position, and that team also runs cars in the MX-5 Super Cup and other championships further afield. But Dan Blake is running pretty well. In fact, he's at the moment, he came into the weekend as the highest placed championship contender that's actually here this weekend, because as we mentioned, no Harry Storer and no Rob Greensmith, so Dan Blake here could really make some big inroads, and even, dare I say, possibly go on to take the lead of the championship. And that really would make things interesting going forwards. Oh, William Bream's off the road. The 264 car, again, spinning at exactly the same spot that we lost Barney Francis. Now, I think he's kept it off the barriers. If not, there might be a bit of a touch on the left rear. But whether he did that himself, whether he was helped, we're not quite sure, because we caught the end of that when William Bream was recovering. So Matt Fletcher then continues on as he turns his way out of Murray's. And this is now starting to get pretty interesting. Is that Jay Shepherd pulling off the road? Is that either a missed gear or is that a problem? Oh, it's problems again for Jay Shepherd. Once again, reliability problems for the 777. The Wasp car just cannot get a break. So into pit lane he goes. It's now 4th of the lead now as they come down towards Ritchie's corner. Alan Hawkins is lurking in the background. But now Neil Chisnell, son of Clive, he's now under threat as he runs wide through Ritchie's, and now Dan Blake can sense an opportunity here. He'll start to close in as they make their way down towards the Wilson hairpin. Let's check the lead gap at the moment. It is currently 0.9 of a second between Fletcher and Pethick. And this is a great chance here for the Clubman Championship. It was conceived off the back of the overwhelming popularity of the MX-5 Championship. So it gives these drivers essentially another chance to race, and it gives them a chance to go for their own championship and their own trophies. And also as well gives a chance for some of the newer drivers that want to come through the series, or those who want this slightly more relaxed, usually 1-day, 2-race format, to save on logistics, save on race entry, save on everything else. And it's a really good introduction to the championship to get yourself involved in the Mazda MX-5 paddock, because then some drivers who are cutting their teeth here, the idea is then to move into, when they're ready, the usual 2-day, 3-race format of the Mazda MX-5 Championship, where you find the fastest drivers in Mark 1s in the BRSCC paddock. And then when you're ready, it's also then a stepping stone from Mark 1s. Several drivers do tend to move up into the Mark 3 BRSCC MX-5 Super Cup, which is ultra competitive this year and has a bumper grid of almost 40 cars in the mix. So lots of action going on. Oh, and I heard a screech of tyres there. Maybe someone from the background lost the back end. Now, Neil Chisnell, I think, he dropped a moment or two. He's been running wide a couple of times in this race, so I suspect that maybe he did just drop back a little bit here. John Pethick, meanwhile, is actually starting to close back in a little bit on Matthew Fletcher on this lap. He looks a little bit closer. Gap is still 9/10 of a second, although last time by, Pethick was almost a second slower, so maybe he's just gathered himself back up together. There is Dan Blake, who is trying to close in on Neil Chisnall, but Neil's pulled away somewhat a bit more. Dan Blake on the last lap, in fact, did a 2 minutes 24.582. He's the fastest man out of the top 5 on that previous lap. He's dropped back now from Chisnall, so I'm not quite sure that will be the case, but there goes Matthew Fletcher. Another Tucker Motorsports prepared car. Of course, that team being the reigning champions in the MX-5 Championship, courtesy of Joe Wiggin, so they know how to prepare a Mark 1. There's a race now. That looks like, is that a penalty or a driving standards flag or track limits for somebody? Right, car 99 has been showing the black and white flag. So car 99 in the Clubman Championship, I will double check on my entry list. Car 99 is Jamie Turner, who's one of our debutants this weekend. So he's been giving a warning for heading over the curbs once too many times, and of course, if you do it too many times, you'll get yourself landed with a time penalty, which can be 5 seconds. So the last lap time by, the gap is still a second, but John Perfect did set his personal best last time, 2 minutes 24.779, but that was still a tenth of a second slower than Matt Fletcher, who still holds that overall fastest lap of the race on a 2:24.433. So we're on to what I think may or may not be the last lap of the race. We've got 2 minutes to go, so I think we might get this, potentially just about one more. You see Alan Hawkins going through the shot. Then just behind him, it's Michael Bankhurst, one of the 2 Mike Comber Racing prepared cars that are in the, sorry, Matthew Bankhurst, forgive me, Matthew Bankhurst in car number 144, one of the 2 Mike Comber Racing prepared cars. That team's had success in MX-5s before. It's been a multiple MX-5 champion, particularly with Will Blackwell Chambers, who won the title in 2017 and 2018. And then as they turn their way out of Williams and onto that back straight once again, I think this will be the penultimate lap of the race. And if John Bethett can try and close in here on Matthew Fletcher, he'll do everything he can here. There's another car that's pulled off to the right-hand side. There's yellow flags being flown down the back straight, but it's halfway down the back straight. So by the time they get to Brundle and Nelson, if there's a move on, you can complete it as you come into Brundle and Nelson, but it's quite a tricky braking zone to do so. It's very much like Coram, where you're having to brake and almost turn a bit at the same time, and usually unless you've got a car that can handle that in terms of setup or just the way it naturally sits on the road, it's not quite well. Now the car that's stopped is car 66, that's David Sculler, unfortunately. So David not having a great start to proceedings here at Snetterton with the car off the road. That's the third car we've seen hit trouble there, because we had the car that went off, which was Barney Francis at the start of the race. Then we had William Bream spin there briefly. Now David Sculler's now pulled to a halt halfway down that back straight. So onto the pit straight then for what should be the second to last time, as the last lap board is going to be held out, or at least been given the signal to be last lap. So Matthew Fletcher then, with 20 seconds to go, makes his way onto the pit straight and down towards Ritchie's for the final time. And so this has been a pretty impressive run from Matthew, who has been a regular in the MX-5 Championship before, but hasn't been, to say it politely, not one of the front-running cars out there, but certainly proving his ability behind the wheel of his MX-5 here. And as I say, he's been able to share that car with Chris Malloy in the past over several seasons, but running solo in this championship at the moment, and proving his ability here and showing just how much he's really come on. Good run for John Pethick to be able to climb back up into second place despite everything that happened around, and you do have to feel for Jay Shepherd. More reliability woes for that car. Just cannot seem to get a break. He had problems at Silverstone, he had problems, in fact he's had problems at, unfortunately, every single round we've had so far. Problems at Croft, had more reliability to Silverstone, and again at Anglesey when he was in a good position. But hopefully they'll be able to get that car fixed and get it back out for the second race later on this afternoon. Neil Chisnall looks strong in third. Dan Blake will also be happy with the solid points for fourth. That means he'll gain 94 points, because you get 100 points for a win, and then the amount of points that you score from the positions behind goes down by 2 each time. So for this race in particular, it'll be Matthew Fletcher will get the maximum score of 100 points, plus also if he holds on to it on this lap, we'll get the bonus point for fastest lap. So he'll pick up 101 from this first race of the day. John Pithick will collect 98. It'll be Neil Chisnall with 96. And then Dan Blake, as we mentioned, the highest placed championship contender, who is here this weekend, because, as we said, there's no Harry Storer and no Rob Greensmith here this weekend, unfortunately. Means that he will make some gains, particularly also not just on those two, but also on Peter Higton, who is behind him in the points at the moment. But Peter is back down in 9th place, and Peter's certainly someone who's been around for quite a while. He's been notable racing in not just MGs, but also more recently in Toyota MR2. So it's a small sports car. He's usually driven it quite a lot, and so quite experienced with these machines. And Has jumped into Mazdas for the first time, at least for a full season this year, but he has been appearing in the MX-5 Championship in the past. Well, Matthew Fletcher's no stranger to the championship and the paddock either, but he's about to do something he's never done before in a Mazda MX-5, which is turn out of the final corner, head down the pit straight, put his foot to the floor, and charge towards the checkered flag. It's been a crazy but entertaining first race for the MX-5 Clubman Championship, but for the second time this year, we're going to get a different winner, our third winner of the season. He punches the air with delight. Matt Fletcher wins the first MX-5 Clubman Championship race of the day here at Snetterton to his and the team's abject delight. It is second place for John Pethick, and third, the final podium spot goes to Neil Chisnell. Fourth to Dan Blake, again, valuable points towards his championship haul. Fifth for Alan Hawkins. Sixth for Matthew Bankhurst on his debut. Well done to him. He delivers a good result for Mike Comber Racing with 90 points on the board for him. Graham Rumsey is 7th. Peter Higton will come through in 8th, ahead of Kevin Bird, who dropped also behind Charles Medwin and Brad Jones. So that's Kevin Bird down to 11th place. And Richard Barth at 12th. Nick Ledoyen recovers after his first lap contact to 13th. Andrew Dean 14th. Jamie Turner 15th. And Luke Woodwards will come through in 16th position. The rest of the pack will come through across the checkered flag. Peter Williams looks like he's going to come through in 17th place, and he will be, by the looks of it, the last classified finisher. As across the line goes Luke Woodwards. And we're still waiting for Peter Williams, who has not come through just yet, but I'm sure he will do shortly. Well, that was a rather entertaining first race, wasn't it? That was superb action from start to finish in the MX-5s. And commiserations to those who didn't make it to the flag. In particular, I'm sure, Jay Shepherd, because he must be getting incredibly frustrated that he's got the pace to be towards the front, but at the moment he's just not having the luck in terms of reliability. So sadly for him, he'll have to try and, if he can get back out for the second race, he'll be starting towards the rear of the field to try and make up the positions. So just to confirm the result then, before we head down to Lindsay and Park Ferme to have a chat to our top three, it is then a first ever win in the MX-5 Clubman Championship for Matthew Fletcher, who takes the victory by 2 seconds from John Pethick in second place, and third place man Neil Chisnell on the final step on the podium. It's then Dan Blake who finishes fourth, and as I mentioned, he'll be delighted with those crucial points to lift himself higher in the table from third at the moment. It's Alan Hawkins 5th, Matthew Bankhurst finishes 6th, and Graham Rumsey in 7th place. And it's Peter Higton, Charles Medwin and Brad Jones round out the top 10. And also Richard Harwood, who wasn't an invitation class driver. Sadly, we lost him early in the race after he went off at Palmer's. So hopefully, again, everyone who's had issues in this first race will be able to get back out again after they retired. William Bream did actually go down into the pit lane and actually retired midway through. Well, there is Matthew Fletcher, looking, I'm sure, underneath his helmet, rather pleased with himself. Someone who's not rather pleased is Barney Francis, who has a look at his car and looks as though he unfortunately dropped it by himself, which is not ideal. But Misty Racing Squad, who are making their first full approach in the MX-5 Championship, are in the mix. Well, whilst he looks at his car and tries to get back to the pit lane, we can head down to Lindsay for the first time. We'll be having a chat with our very, I'm sure, happy top three for our first race of the day for the Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship.
A tough race. Can you talk us through it? Because you didn't even think you were going to make it to the start line.
No, exactly. It was. I think we got very lucky there. It was all pretty panic and rush at the start, and we just managed to fix an issue that we had, which I think may have just come back. But yeah, it was to get out there and see how well we can do, and yeah, did better than expected. And what a brilliant way to. Well, this is my first race back this season, so it's quite exciting. Yeah.
Well, you started P7, so talk us through your tricks that you pulled to get up to the top there.
Well, there was a bit of a mess at the beginning. I managed to make sort of 2 or 3 spaces. And then, I can't remember first or second lap, one of the guys in front of me unfortunately had a bit of an off, and hope he's all right. I saw him go off into the barrier and allowed me to go through, I think, up into third. First place made a mistake and came off, and it was then a case of, well, I think I could actually win this, so let's push a bit harder and see what happens. And got in front and thankfully stayed there. So yeah, really exciting. Great race.
Well, thank you very much, and we wish you the best of luck for this afternoon.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Right, let's very quickly catch up with John, who came second place. John, can you quickly talk us through the race? How was it for you?
Yeah, very good. Look, enjoyed it. I got too much wheel spin at the start, so I think I went down to about third, maybe fourth at the end. But yeah, after that, just clawed my way back through as much as possible. Yeah, we got into the second, and I just couldn't catch the leader, just too quick for me. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Happy with that, yeah.
So, are you thinking this afternoon? Obviously, you're going to be starting alongside Matt. Are you thinking best chances getting off the line?
Yeah, I think if I'm going to beat him, I'm going to have to pass him straight away. But we'll see how that goes.
Marvellous. Well, we wish you the best of luck. And very quickly, we are going to try and catch up here with Dan. Dan, how did you get... Sorry, Neil. How did you get on?
Yeah, a little bit disappointed in the end. I got off to a good start, got into P1 and spent about a lap, 2 laps in P1, but then yeah, the pressure just got to me a little bit, and yeah, went off, rejoined, managed to get back to P3, but just couldn't catch the guys in front.
Yeah, they were storming away there, but it's getting hotter here today. Do you think that's affecting you guys out there?
I don't have enough experience to say, to be perfectly honest. It did feel a little bit floatier towards the end of the race, but the tyres just going off a little bit. But yeah, I think it will be slowing us down a little bit, but not too much to make that much of a difference, I don't think.
Well, you're starting right behind Matt for the race this afternoon. Are you thinking you're going to try and go wide around him? You're going to get him by the first corner?
Who knows, to be honest. I mean, that was my first ever good start of the season, so I'm just going to try and reproduce that and see what happens, I think.